Hey, it's Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Your O's podcast, now with the Digital Network. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, lots of things always happening with Wrap Your Head Around Silks. Roll it out. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, to foam roll our aerial problems away. This has changed my practice so much. I am no longer in chronic pain. I figured out a way to maintain my aerial body. I would love to see you. We do Zoom, we gossip, we chat. I'm able to focus in on your problems because it's still a pretty small class, and I'd love to have you there. Please go to the show notes to sign up. And if you wanted to do any of the other resources that I have on my website, I have a full comprehensive beginner to intermediate silks course, especially if you're kind of out there teaching yourself on a home rig or something like that. A lot of guidance for you guys. 12 modules. It touches everything. So that might be great for you. Also, we have aerial rehab, which is for postpartum, post-injury, post-surgery, meant to be the bridge between PT and your favorite aerial class. So check that out. Of course, I have a free mini course if you want to just get to know my style. Today, we have Dr. Hayley Parker. She is an acupuncturist on the East Coast. And she talks all about how acupuncture can support our prenatal stage, postpartum, if you're having trouble conceiving, if you're having trouble carrying a baby all the way through, and then also through menopause. So I learned so much in this interview. I did not know even a fraction of this stuff. I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her. Let's get started. Where are you coming from?
So I am in Virginia. I'm in Tyson's Corner, Virginia.
Oh, yeah, I know that area.
Do you? Great. Are you on the West Coast?
I'm in LA. Having said that, I lived in DC for a year after college.
Uh-huh.
And I love it.
It's love-hate. I am from the area, and then I moved out west for grad school. I went to college in Virginia, and then I moved out west. And then I traveled on cruise ships for 5 years as an acupuncturist. And I was like window shopping where I wanted. Yeah, I was window shopping where I wanted to end up. And as life has it, be careful what you pray for, because I was like, well, I wonder what's next for me. God opened a door, and sure enough, it pulled me back to DC, where family is, my career's here. So, and then I sit here and I'm like, ugh, DC of all places. But it's a wonderful area in that, family and all of the, it's a mixing bowl of everything. Yeah. And then we have airports where you can travel wherever you'd want to go. And so it's been a good journey. I'm always wondering where can I get off to and appreciate what I have,
Yeah. Well, I love DC. It's a little too buttoned up for me because I'm an aerialist, obviously. Right. So I'm in an artist community, and so it's a little buttoned up for me. I like the creatives a lot more. But
how cool!
I'll tell you. I'll tell you a little bit about our podcast, because this is a very, very, very niche. I joke that I couldn't niche any farther down than this. So this population is amazing. Women all over the world, all ages, but mostly 20s to 60s probably. And we have anywhere from the hobbyist that just does aerial, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever seen a Silks performance, or if you've ever gone to Cirque du Soleil, somebody who's just has a regular job, goes in, this is their mental health time, this is their workout, this is their artistic outlet, all the way up to the people who are doing it for Cirque du Soleil and other professional companies, and then choreographers and such. And then also kind of intersecting our lifestyles, our having kids, being moms, how that transition from not being pregnant to prenatal to after the baby, how we're getting back to our sport. So that's what people are kind of tuning in for, because they want to hear the stories, because there's not a lot of studies on there are no studies on pregnant women and this particular sport, and there are very little studies, period. So we always want to hear about how to better take care of ourselves, how to, like, what are creative ways to have better bodies in all of this. So I thought you'd be a great person to have.
I appreciate everything you just said. And I have so many comments that I can like expound on when you're ready. So yeah, that was awesome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Dr. Hayley, if you would just introduce yourself, full name, a little bit about your family, a little bit about your practice, and then we'll jump in.
So my name is Dr. Hayley Parker. I have been an acupuncturist for 15 years. I am currently in the Tysons Corner, Virginia area, working at Virginia University of Integrative Medicine. It's one of the largest schools for acupuncture and integrative medicine in the country. It has definitely created more learning curves and tossing and turning and aerial flipping for me in my career. But it's been wonderful to be here. And we work quite a bit on advocacy for the profession, helping students find their employment pipelines into working in integrative medical clinics, bringing in guest speakers for our students to learn how to have these conversations in the future, and ultimately working with different types of populations, such as expecting mothers, athletes and acrobats, as well as just, at creating access to different communities that maybe have never even heard about acupuncture before.
How'd you get it? Like, where'd you find this passion for this?
Interestingly enough, I once upon a time was a competitive athlete. I was a diver, so a springboard diver.
Oh my God.
Very much can appreciate the aerial athletics. And how people will look at what I did and they were like, well, how did you know what to do? And it was a very incremental process of piecing together little skill sets. And being a female athlete, I can really, I have so much empathy for other female athletes that we have to manage in our training process and in our identities and in every aspect of our lives. So I really appreciate what you do and how you all are preaching to this population. So back to how I got into this, I was an athlete and I had several injuries, as we do as athletes, the oops, I should have grabbed, or oops, I should have kicked out when I didn't. And then it leads to where your body is a little broken for a while. And I always say to my patients now, those injuries, the injuries and the body, it tells great stories, but unfortunately those injuries turn into canaries when our bodies get run down, or we're going through a lot of things in life and our battery pack can only manage so much at once. Usually your body starts to say, okay, whoa, girl, come back and focus in. So as I graduated from college and I was working with my grandfather at the time, he was doing manual labor. He was in aviation. So I was working at the hangar with him and my injuries were just screaming at me. And I think my grandfather was sick of me whining. And so he took me to his acupuncturist. And when I saw an acupuncturist, I thought, at a certain point, I'll try anything just to get some relief and calm my body down. And it changed my life. And I was dumbfounded, why no one ever had suggested to try this before for just little maintenance as well as overall injuries. But the biggest thing, and I don't often tell this part of the story, is when you have injuries or when you're pulled in so many directions, your nervous system is just high wired. And when I was on that table and receiving my first treatment, it was as if there was this whoosh of calm that came over me. And I was suddenly able to sink into my body again. And it was the most unique feeling. And I thought, man, that's a really great tool. How could I replicate that? Unfortunately, the more that I studied the medicine, the more it just innately made sense to me. And ultimately, I've gone on to help people like I was helped, which was ultimately a mission a long time ago.
Oh my God, I love this. Okay, I have so many questions. Okay, for our listeners and for myself, honestly, because I don't know a lot of this. Can you give just like the acupuncture for dummies?
Sure.
Like, I don't want my listeners to be like, oh, I feel like I don't actually know what that is. And I feel really nervous to ask somebody.
Totally a fair question. And, even for acupuncturists who come to study this medicine, they know there is an absolute truth in this medicine. And it takes them a lot of years of schooling to be able to piece it together. So what I have come to, and there can be far more acupuncturists out there that can feed into this conversation, but, and I'll say enter into the comments below for the listeners. But as I found, it's like this was a 5,000-year-old medicine. And in ancient times, they didn't have x-rays or microscopes to be able to understand the mechanics of the nervous system or the mechanisms of the circulatory system. And so they found this way of explaining these patterns that were going on in the body and the way that these networks moved through the body. Now, thanks to modern technology and in modern times, we can use science to be able to explain these intricacies of intercellular communication, even down to the axons and the dendrites and the nerves and the, potassium, sodium pumps and all that chemistry that gets super nerdy. But anyway, if we're overlaying this ancient language onto what's happening in the body, the Chinese medicine understood that what was going on inside of the body was reflected on the outside of the body. And so these ancient Chinese practitioners were able to read the body and the signs and symptoms and take pulses and check the tongue and be able to palpate these channels and observe and smell and ask questions and hear what was going on and be able to piece together these patterns. And then through understanding these patterns of how all these different parts of the body interrelated, they were able to pick these points around the body and place these little teeny pins in the body that was almost like coding for the brain, of helping to connect the brain back into the body and create an instantaneous blood and brain chemistry change to where the body goes back into what's called homeostasis, or that therapeutic window where the body knows how to operate better again. And all the way that the body is built, thanks to, a divine power, it's able to function a whole lot better there. So if we were in a slump, we're able to come back up out of the slump. If we're way resonating too high, we're able to come back down and be able to function properly and heal more efficiently.
Okay, so from a nuts and bolts perspective, you have somebody on your table, and how do you, especially if they don't really know what's wrong, how do you know which direction to go in, with these needles? That's
a great question as well. So when someone comes into a clinic, we go through an initial intake, just like any medical procedure would. And so they fill out their basic medical history. We go through a review of systems. Now, our review of systems in traditional Chinese medicine will pertain to areas in which we can overlay some pattern recognition. We ultimately are conversating with our patient. And this is something a lot of patients will say to me, and they'll say, wow, your students or you as a practitioner really got to know me. We met our patient where they're at, and we understood what their pain meant to them. We understand how that affects their life, and we understand their goals of treatment. Sometimes people are coming in just to try out. Sometimes they have this chronic pain. They're looking to just manage, right? And then we have other people who are looking for that overnight miracle. So anyway, we're understanding what our patients are wanting, and we're taking all of that information, and we're able to then go through our assessments, our traditional assessments of the body. As I mentioned, taking pulses where you can actually read the interplay of the organs in the body and the correspondence. And we can look at the tongue, which it's so weird, but the tongue is the only muscle we can see on the outside of the body. So by looking at that tongue, we're able to see these maps and understanding how the organs are interacting, similar to, say, reflexology of certain points on the body and how that's relating to another area of the body. And putting all of that evidence together to then come up with a treatment principle and a treatment plan to help that patient there that moment, but also how can we get their body back into that homeostatic balance to where their lifestyle factors and their normal daily routine can manage their health and they can have better quality of life.
Oh my goodness. You're smart cookie. I love this. Okay, I'm going to ask you all the things that my ladies want to know. Okay, let's just say you're pregnant. And you come in, if you could talk about some of the issues prenatal women come in with and how you support them.
Sure. Well, and I always, every podcast, every woman who comes in who's pregnant, I always have to make the disclaimer. I personally have yet to have my own family. But that being said, I'm a female and I go through all the hoops as far as once a month, I'm going through my PMS and I work with patients. So through my experiential knowledge, I have yet to go through that subjective experience. But from what I have observed, when my patients come in, they're coming in with they're usually feeling like they're really run down, because for all intents and purposes, they're feeding another little human being inside of them. And so most of their nutrient is being diverted into that little organism. They have a foggy headedness. Their body's starting to morph. So their kinesthetic awareness of how they go through space is still recalibrating. They have their mood fluctuations just like we would monthly in our cycles, but particularly in their hormones fluctuating so dramatically, and perhaps not sleeping as much, or their hot flashes are coming about and they're not able to regulate their temperatures. Their bodies just are not feeling in their control. And this is something that I think is the main complaint most often, is that they're just wanting to have this sense of stability and control so that they can manage the rest of their daily lives. Because when my patients come in and they're pregnant, it doesn't mean that the rest of the chaos outside of their bodies just suddenly stops. They still have to go to their meetings. They still have to show up for work. They still have to be present in their other relationships. And sometimes they're so slowed down by nurturing this little baby inside of them that they're not able to fully engage, and they feel like it's a runaway train. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any tools in your bag for first trimester nausea?
We absolutely do. So there are points that are speckled throughout the body that are particularly great for nausea. In fact, the point indication, the number one thing, is nausea and vomiting. With that, we know of one, and we use those little, what are they, seasickness bracelets. It's a point called pericardium 6. And that is if you take your fingers and you go down, you fall right into this little pit between these tendons. And that point is really great for helping to calm what we call as rebellious chi that wants to create that nauseous feeling and that, morning sickness or all day sickness. And so by helping to calm the chi and re-regulate the way that everything is flowing in the body, ultimately those points create a stronger effect in helping to recalibrate the system. And so that someone can go ahead and keep something down, eat something, and help with that stomach acid, help with their bodies making these transitions, particularly in the first trimester. But as we know, that does occur at times throughout the pregnancy.
Okay. And then have you ever experienced a patient with hyperemesis where that nausea goes throughout the entire pregnancy?
I have. In fact, my cousin was someone who was plagued with this. And, unfortunately, there are certain pregnancies that are more difficult than others. I really admire those women that make it through and then decide to try again and have another baby.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, I find that in my observations of patients who receive acupuncture, and other holistic modalities like chiropractic, prenatal massage, nutrition therapy, versus the ones who are battling out on their own, though that population can ease those symptoms and have a much more enjoyable pregnancy, hopefully being able to get through that nausea in those first weeks of the pregnancy and have that glow of a pregnant woman throughout the rest of their pregnancy.
Okay, so definitely for my listeners out there who are unlucky enough to have hyperemesis, it might be a road you want to go down.
Totally. And I always say to my patients, what's the worst that can happen? You feel better. Because if it doesn't work for you, it's not going to create any harmful side effects. The thing with natural therapies is these natural therapies help to support your system in what it's already supposed to be doing. And so by trying it, if it's just totally not for you, that's okay, no harm done. But you have another tool in your toolkit when things really get bad. So I would always encourage my patients, or a prospective patient, give it a go. A great therapist, if you don't get to work with someone on my side of the coast, they over here in the East Coast, look for somebody who can be there and be a teammate with you. A lot of the premise of TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, we operate under this patient-centered care model, where again, we really want to focus in on what our patients needing, their primary concerns, and how we can support them, not just in that moment, but also for that longevity and quality of life.
Okay, I've had a couple interviews with women who have multiple miscarriages, unfortunately. A couple of them have said that acupuncture is a thing that they don't know, like it's one of their tools, and then eventually they have baby. So do you have any experience with that, or general knowledge of how that can help that problem? I don't really even know how to say it. Like get women to the other side of the
Totally.
of that net,
And my heart goes out to those listeners and those out there. I mean, I have worked with several women who have had miscarriages. They've even gone through the infertility treatments and still it's been unsuccessful. And a lot of those women come in with a bit of this identity crisis of what's wrong with me. And we have to remember that the whole compendium of Chinese medicine, you're not just a physical body, you're a mental, emotional, spiritual body in a physical form. And so with that, your emotions, your stress levels, all of your past history, that's coming with you into that treatment room. And as a practitioner, we are there to help support you in teasing that out and be able to get you to that other side. So with that, when a patient comes in and they say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Or I've had these miscarriages and I really want to try again. In the most basic way, I try to explain to my patients that there's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes the body can't speak English, so it speaks symptom. And what it's saying is that you're not in the right rhythm. And for women who have miscarriages, a lot of the times it's that your estrogen and progesterone are not dancing correctly, are creating these windows of opportunity for conception and then ultimately support for that little embryo. With that, the body has this way of a higher intelligence of aborting a little fetus that maybe would not be nourished properly or would create medical issues for yourself down the line. So if we can help the body understand, no, this is what we want, give the body a rhythm, a circadian rhythm, a natural rhythm that your body knows, then we're able to support that pregnancy in through those volatile first weeks and on into those latter trimesters to where you can birth your baby happy, healthy, naturally. Another thing that women say to me is, well, can I do both? Can I do infertility treatments? They've gone down that line. They're already in that process, but they want to optimize their chances. I always can tell them that no matter what you're doing for your body, it never hurts to help support your system and support your constitution and bring your body's natural ability of finding those windows and harmonizing those hormonal cycles so that the body is on the same page as you. You're working with the body, you're working with the system, and you're helping the body understand these other therapies like the infertility treatments are just going to be that much more successful in addition to the constitutional support.
Okay, so let's go to postpartum. Imagine you have someone come in and there's just a host of things that can go like wrong postpartum. Like, for example, I had postpartum anxiety. Lots of women have postpartum depression. Talk about ways in which acupuncture can support the many things that can happen in that fourth trimester.
Sure. So there again, when you have, in Chinese medicine, we call the fetus a little phlegm ball, but also referred to as a parasite in mechanism of how that little baby, that little ball of joy is taking so much of your energy. And I think for the women out there who've been pregnant, like you realize this because you're so much hungrier. You want to sleep all the time, right? Your battery life is also now like supporting this little thing. So anyhow, when you have this, let alone the process of birth is very intense, right? And so that taxes a female's body. And so then the woman has now given birth to this little baby who is using their breasts for, their nourishment. They're waking all the night because they have to be on a feeding schedule. So the woman's body is getting more and more depleted. And with that, I don't think we as women give ourselves some like that grace, that a lot of our energy is being fractioned and fractioned and fractioned. And with that comes symptoms, because the body doesn't speak English. It speaks symptom. And so that anxiety is trying to tell you that, hey, your tanks are low. That depression is that you literally do not have the nutrients in your body to create the neurotransmitters to nourish your brain and to help that support. So with that, acupuncture can help rebalance out those levels. It does help with endorphin release for any sorts of postpartum pain, helping remend tissues, and also helping release neurotransmitters to re-regulate that brain-body connection so that you can enjoy those moments. Most of my women that come in years later and their babies are grown and they're starting to walk, and it's like, they tell me it's been a flash. They wish they would have enjoyed those moments more, but they physically couldn't because they felt so removed and almost detached from this process because they were just trying to keep the baby going and keep the baby alive, wake up as a zombie and go to the crib. So with that, the acupuncture supports the female body. It supports lactation, milk production. It helps with the efficiency of building nutrients, not only for yourself, but there again, also to deliver to the infant.
I always say it's a racket that we're expected to either push the baby out of the vagina or have full abdominal surgery, come home, and 100% take care of a kid, especially the first time. Like, you don't know how to be a mom. You're learning. I mean, like, I still don't know what I'm doing. Like, I literally, and my partner, I think because he thinks, I'm a woman, he thinks I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm guessing every single step of the way.
Right.
And it's a racket that this is what the world expects from every single woman, and we put it on ourselves that we're not doing a good enough job. But like, I didn't get any training for this. I don't know about anybody else.
And no matter how many classes you go to or books you read
right.
or how many times you call your mom, it's like, it's a learning curve. And that's where I almost feel like becoming a mother, even if my friends who are younger than me have become mothers, I feel they've gone through this rite of passage and they're my elders because they know these things, right? And something that I'm a therapist, so they confide in me a little bit differently than just most of our friend group. And I think something that also torments us as women is that we think everyone else knows, right? We think everyone else is doing such a better job. And like in the background, they're crying, like they're freaking out. They're, running after their toddler in addition to these C-section scars, right? And maybe their husband or their friends check in on them those first couple days. But then as most things happen, we get back into our busy lives, and here you are months later, still feeling that postpartum depression or still feeling that disconnect from the old version of you. And so recognizing, for everybody who's listening, that's normal, right? Like, you've just undergone something huge. You've gone through this rite of passage. You're now flowering into a new version of yourself. But that just because someone else isn't talking about it doesn't mean that they're not going through it too. And I find that my friends that have gone through these hard times and have made it over to the other side have become so much more intuitive and sensitive to other women who are going through these transitions. And hope that's where women, I think, shine the best, is we're community creatures. We create relationships, and we're there to band together. And that, just know that you're not alone, and you have an awesome woman like Carrie here to validate that.
Yeah, I drop validation in your inbox once a month with this podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, this is a question I have zero knowledge of this. Is there anything in acupuncture that can help with the like muscular mending, fascia mending of like after birth, like for diastasis recti, for any pelvic floor issues? Is that something acupuncture can help with? I don't even know.
Definitely can. So,
okay.
So here's another thing I always just like to pull out in perspective, right? I'm going to go on a slight tangent, but I'm coming back to that. So when patients come in to talk to me, sometimes they come in with this like dichotomy of it's either or, it's Eastern or Western. And like, they're meant to blend. And we're so privileged to be in a Western world that has access to this technology and we have access to these resources. But in addition, we're never not supposed to support the system. So when my patients come in and they've had their C-section, like they've physically been cut. Now, not only has the C-section created an issue, but that scar tissue, we need to help with that scar tissue so that the body can get back into its normal operations again. So with a surgical scar, there's going to be a healing that has to happen. The acupuncture, when working through those areas, helps with the nervous system. Now, nervous tissue heals so much slower. And so that a lot of time my patients will say they have a lot of numbness in those areas, in addition to maybe some phantom pains. And then acupuncture itself helps with collagen production and helping to mend together. Mending is going to take its time because we're natural beings. Like it's going to take a period of time to heal, and someone's health and nutrition and all these other factors will help that process occur quicker. The acupuncture itself gets the brain involved to help tell the body, hey, we're trying to heal this up. This had to happen. Now we're trying to heal this up. Increases circulation and blood flow, brings nutrient distribution to the area and oxygenation for those tissues, as well as, like I said, bringing back and rewiring those nerves so that it can really knit together and over time create a thicker network. So you can get back to your flips and twists and scarves in the air.
So if a woman has like a pretty big separation and they're also in with a PT trying to bring it together through exercise, then if they do the acupuncture to support that, it will overall it can be a better outcome. I
think the more tools for the job. Ultimately, we work a lot with other medical providers such as PTs for like the rehabilitation stage. And with that, I try to explain it to my patients of order of operations. That PT is doing a wonderful job. They're doing the exercises. They're rebuilding these the muscle and the strength aspect. But if the nervous system is not involved, we're not getting as much stimuli as we can to that area or activation to those muscles. And sometimes what I find as well is that, the muscles that are already strong do a great job of compensating and overbearing those little tiny weak muscles. And in my times of going to a PT, I always laugh because some of the exercises they do, I wouldn't be able to do those even if I was healthy, right? Like, and so trying to get that neuroplasticity involved of like creating new networks, not just of the nerve flow, but also of the blood flow. Now, a good thing is with your population and athletes, because of your previous training, there's already a network and a supply chain there. It's just a matter of reactivating it and getting those different networks to start to reconnect and start the flow again.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, so I am 47. I am in I'm in perimenopause. I have women in this population who are going through peri into the menopause, some who are done. What are the things that acupuncture can help us with through this like 10-year process? It was terrible.
Yeah. So menopause is a normal stage of life. The symptoms don't have to be. So I find that my patients who are already receiving acupuncture and in a maintenance mode, not like they're truly attacking, like fearing the day that they're going to go in through. Actually, most people are like eagerly excited for menopause, just for as far as like stopping the period and the cumbersomeness of being a woman, right? However, the healthier you are going into it, typically your symptoms are well more manageable. Can acupuncture help with all of this? The answer is yes. So acupuncture helps with the hot flashes. It helps metabolize those hormones, bringing down those excess levels, in addition to helping detoxification, which I always want to remind my patients that your organs are filters, but whatever helps filter the filters, it's not like we can take out our liver, wash it, and, air dry it and then stick it back in. So it really comes down to helping our like circulation and gut motility, as well as getting those really toxic elements out. And so that the body can repair and heal and work with the other 500 functions that the liver's involved with. With all of that, acupuncture also helps with stress and mood. There is a gut and brain connection. So when we go through the menopause phase, our hormones are literally like flooding our brain to where we can't perceive. And I'm sure your husband's out there once a month for those of you menstruating or those of you that are going through menopause. They just can't understand this because men don't have that same like cycle that we do, which makes us so beautiful and unique. So with that, the acupuncture, in addition, herbal formulas really help support managing these flows and managing these symptoms so that you can keep yourself balanced and make it over to that other side.
Oh my goodness. Not looking forward to all that. But yes, the whole period thing. Oh my God.
You know, Carrie, you say this about like menopause, and there's something that we say in Chinese medicine where as we're young, we don't have a lot of wisdom, but we have a lot of something called Jing, or Jing is like our essence. And unfortunately, our essence makes us a little reckless when we're younger. And like, you know, our hormones are thriving and pumping, and, you know, we have those full little cheeks. But as we get older, we trade our Jing for wisdom. So then we get towards, you know, 40s, 50s, and we're a little bit dry, we're a little bit washed out, we're a little bit gray. And that's all a natural cycle. And all of us are looking back to like, well, we really want to harness this Jing again with our wisdom. And so what acupuncture can help to do is it helps that process be a little bit more seamless, and it helps with that microcirculation, ultimately helping to nourish this yin and this Jing to where we can keep our resources more stable through that transition, and we don't dry out so quickly. We don't crack so easily, whether it's physically or emotionally. And ultimately, we have a bit more of that grace going into that next stage of life.
Okay, so if you have any advice for moms out there, whichever stage they're in, based on your experience, do you have any advice that you like to give?
Well, I say try it. You don't know if it's for you until you try. And if it's not for you, perhaps you just have more experience to pass on to people who ask you and they find their light. We've already spoken about that. Don't think that everyone else has it together. Most of us are still raising ourselves, let alone a family. So ultimately, coming to different therapists and working with different practitioners, you have a community. And that is so important in health and overall well-being. And we sometimes forget that our social health and our spiritual health is such a part of our total person. And then as far as like as a woman, we are so blessed to be so sensitive. Now, our greatest strengths are often our greatest weaknesses. So with those sensitivities, we can get off balance a whole lot easier. And so by using tools that help recalibrate us, we're able to, stress is always going to be there, but we're able to handle those stressors and maintain ourselves through that process so that we can show up for our children, show up for our family, show up for our partners that think we always know the answer, as well as continue to operate under our daily parameters like working and driving in traffic and not lose it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I love this. And I feel like you've educated me on it because I did not know even a fraction of this stuff. I remember my mom, she used to I'm Chinese, but Chinese American, emphasis on the American. I didn't spend any time growing up in Asia. And she would take these little jars of Chinese medicine and try to feed them to me. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. Do you even know what that is? And so I had kind of a negative perception of Chinese medicine because there was no explanation of it to me when I was a kid. And so now as an adult, I'm just learning again. And I am totally, it's intriguing because it's so ancient.
It's so ancient. It wouldn't be around still if there wasn't truth to it, right? And there's also science behind it. And I think that's where you spoke of earlier, right, when we were opening about the science and the evidence and the research. And I had so many points to say there. Now, there's tons of research and there's tons of evidence about acupuncture. And so there is science there behind it. There's also art. And because we're individuals, each person's a little bit different. And so with that, for the viewers that are out there, don't be scared to try it for yourself and have your subjective experience, even if there's no evidence. Like, your body better than anybody, and you're an expert of your body because you've lived in it every single day. With that, with this mystery of Chinese medicine, it has been around for thousands of years. And this is where, as an American practitioner, a lot of my work and working here in a university is to help bridge that gap and help explain what the ancients were trying to say so long ago, and tap into those years and years and years of knowledge and observational evidence, and bring that over into this Western model of where we rely so much on evidence-based research, as well as then still tuning it and tailoring it to the individual. So there's a lot of complexities in mending the science and the art of medicine, and how we can use this as a tool in an integrative practice to give our patients the best care possible.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Such a great resource. Thank you.
Oh, I'm happy to be a resource. And for those of you who do know an acupuncturist, call right now, sign up, and make another appointment. For those of you on the East Coast, we'd love to have you come and visit our university. We have 3 locations currently on the East Coast, one up in New Jersey. The flagship campus is here in Virginia, and then one down in Georgia. But ultimately, we are a very small minority of practitioner in this country that has a wealth of knowledge to share. So as far as find an acupuncturist, go and visit. It'll only help you in your healing process and your health journey to keep a quality of life for you and your family.
What's the best way for people to find you on the internet?
On the internet, we'll check out the school's website, and then we can always just put the hashtags down below for our Instagram handle and some of our pages.
Okay, sounds great. Dr. Hayley, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was such a nice time talking with you today.
Dr. Hayley, you are a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for being here. My listeners, if you want to connect with Dr. Hayley, I'll put those ways down in the show notes. My friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. If you'd like to be in the podcast, just send me a DM or email me, Carrie@wrapyourheadaroundsilks.com. This is for you guys. It's for the worldwide community. So if you have a story that you'd love to share, please reach out. I'd love to have you as a virtual student. So if you go to the show notes, there's links for all of my online resources, free mini course, comprehensive beginner to intermediate, and aero rehab as well. I'd love to have you guys there. And check out Greener Grass. It's the podcast that I do with Kelly McVeigh. And we talk about so many things that you might care about. And then we also just gab. We have so much fun. Please leave me a 5-star rating and review. It makes such a huge difference. So I would appreciate that with all of my heart. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Over and out. This is Carrie with Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Therapist.
Open up.